Okay, so in this video, I want to take a look at just using your calculator to calculate trig functions. Now, I'm going off a TI-84 here, right? So as you see, this little emulator that I have here. So any TI-84 plus, whatever TI that you have, except the 89, that one's a completely different machine. You'll be calculating in a very similar way, right? Now, one thing to keep in mind here, so what I want to go over is calculating the basic sine, cosine, tangent, but also doing the secant, the cosecant. Now, one thing that you see here is right above the sine, cosine, and tangent, you see matching sine inverses, cosine inverse, tangent inverse, right? So one thing to keep in mind is that these inverses, they are not reciprocals, right? They're inverse functions. It's a completely different value. All right, we'll talk more about inverses later in this course, but just keep that in mind then when dealing with this here, that here, let me just write that down here on the side, that the sine inverse of theta does not equal the cosecant of theta. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, that is that negative one. Unfortunately, is not an exponent, right? It's meant to signify the inverse function. Okay, so one thing, or the first thing to keep in mind here is when you're using a calculator is, well, we've gone over two modes of measurements, the radians and degrees, right? Now, which one do you choose, right? Well, how do I differentiate between both of those? I mean, well, if you go into mode, here, you'll notice as you scroll down, you'll have radian degree, right? So then you can just pick one here, right? If you go down, kind of scroll your way down. If you're given radians, you choose radians. If you have degrees, you hit degrees. So you kind of scroll over till you're in the right one and then hit enter. Once it's highlighted, all right, I can go to second quit, right? And now you're in degree mode, all right? So we can do, for example, let's say we want to do, how about one we can easily kind of calculate here? How about, let's say, sine of, since we're in degrees, 90 degrees. All right, so we know that will be 1. Okay. So let me go ahead and type that in. So sine, I'm in degrees. So once you're in degree mode, you don't need an actual degree symbol. You can just write 90, enter. Right, and we get 1, right? Just like we know the value should be. All right, now keep in mind that it is important that you are in the right mode, because you could say sine, let's see, second pi over 2. And if you're not in the right mode, what you'll see is you'll get an incorrect answer. Okay, so what you want to do is when you are given ratings, again, always double check what mode am I in. Right, get to radian mode. Let's go second quit, and let's do that same thing again, right? So I'm gonna hit second, and then down here at enter is entry, right? And that just brings the previous quantity you have inputted back up, right? And now when I hit enter here, right, we see 1, right, as needed. Okay, so how do we calculate the secant and the cosecant? Well, if we wanted to find out, let's say, for example, just the secant, let's just pick some angle in radians, right? Let's say the secant of, let's see, pi over 3. All right, so secant of pi over 3, the way I would do that is first, I need to just change everything to sines and cosines. All right, and then cosine of pi over 3, what is 1/2, so the reciprocal should be 2. So let's confirm that here. All right, so again, the way you would do this, all right, you'd have to use 1. I'm already in radians, so I don't need to worry about that. Divided by cosine second pi divided by 3. Close it, enter, and we get a value of 2. Okay. All right. Now, if we're given an angle that isn't on the unit circle, let's say 75 degrees, right? Let's say that I wanted to calculate tangent 75 degrees and cotangent 75 degrees. Cotangent of 75 degrees. Okay. So let's do the first one. And again here, we'll start with the tangent. Well, again, mode. Scroll down, make sure we're in the proper mode. Scroll over degrees, hit enter. Okay. I'm in degrees. So now we can do tangent of 75. Enter. And we get 3.73. Unless stated otherwise, 2 decimal places should be more than enough here. So what was it again? 3.73. Rounded correctly, right? This is proper rounding. It should be the 3.73. Okay. Cotangent of 75 degrees. Okay, so here, again, there is no cotangent button here, so we would have to do the reciprocal of the functions, 1 divided by tangent 75 degrees. Hit enter, and we get 0.27, right? Proper rounding here, right? 27. Okay. All right. Okay, and then for using the calculator, you can plug in negative angles as well. If you plug in an angle that is like, let's say, cosine of 135, then it will turn back the correct sign, right? So you don't have to worry about that for the using the cosine and the sine and the tangent, right? Once we get into inverses, then it gets a little bit more involved into determining the right value that you're looking for, right? But for now, just plug away whether the angle is positive or negative. Use that positive or negative value, or you can use those negative identities covered in an earlier video, right, to get the right answer. Okay.